Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, great to see you again, by the way.
Yeah, it's great to see you, and welcome to Arkansas. We're glad to have you here.
Beautiful day, by the way. Where do we begin? You have been an active governor. Boy, I tell you what, there's been a lot, including Title IX. That's where I want to start. I mean, look, you're not going to enforce these regulations. What is the Biden administration trying to do here on Title IX?
To me, it is absolutely insane, the things that are coming out of the Biden administration, particularly on Title IX. I'm a mom. I have a daughter who plays sports. And frankly, I think every single parent in the country should be outraged at what this administration is doing. Not only are they putting our kids' safety in jeopardy by forcing them into locker rooms, and they're taking away their opportunities, taking away their scholarships. Women have fought for decades to be able to have opportunities to play sports, to get scholarships, and to be safe in the environment that they do those things in, and they're trying to erase that. I say all the time, the biggest war that we have on women is the left raging a war against women of this country, and we have to fight back. And I hope that the feminists will start paying attention, because they should be the maddest of all. They fought for so long for these opportunities, and now we need to step up and engage in this fight.
Yeah, where have the feminists been? I mean, you had to do an executive order about a lot of this this wokeness stuff, run amok, the anti-women language, the Latinx stuff, all this stuff. Why did you feel the need to do that, and what is going on with the feminists as it relates to, I thought the Democrats were the party of women.
You know, I wish we didn't have to do these things, because to me, it should be common sense, and we shouldn't need executive orders or lawsuits or pushback, because there are two genders. Science is very clear on this. There are men, there are women, and we want to protect that. I want to protect what is unique and special about being a woman, and they want to erase that, and we're not going to allow that to happen. As long as I'm governor of Arkansas, we're going to continue to fight for those protections, and if that means we have to sign executive orders or file lawsuits, those are the things we're going to do.
You mentioned two genders. Objective truth under attack here. God kind of writ large under attack.
Kind of. He did.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He was very clear. In the beginning, God created man and woman. I mean, it doesn't get much more simple than that.
But the Democrat Party has changed.
Oh.
I mean, it used to be that kind of blue collar, kind of middle class, economic pocketbook party decades ago. Yeah. What has happened to the Democrat Party? Not that you can be a spokesman for the Democrat Party, but do you believe they become more anti-God as the decades have gone on?
You'll have to ask them on.
Yeah.
I certainly don't ever want to sign up to be the spokesperson for their party. But what I do see is that there is a hunger and a desire from conservatives to push back against some of the radical ideology that we're seeing come out of Washington. And because Washington is so broken, it's falling on states and governors to step up and lead, and that's exactly what we're doing. If they're going to continue to push that craziness, we're going to continue to stand up, make sure our voices are heard, and fight for principles that matter, principles that they used to claim matter to them as well.
Speaking about Genesis, because you mentioned Genesis, what about Israel? Because I know you're passionate about Israel. In Genesis, it talks about, in essence, God's promise to Abraham and Israel, that if you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. If you curse Israel, you'll be cursed. And here's the Biden administration, in essence, turning their back on Israel in so many different ways. How concerned are you about that, and what happens if America turns their back on Israel?
Well, I think it's incredibly concerning, not just the Biden administration is turning their back on Israel, but I think this administration is turning their back on America. Everything that matters to our country, they're abandoning. Everything that we have fought for, that we have said we stand for, they're walking away from. And that includes supporting our allies like Israel. Israel has a right to defend itself, and they should, and we should be standing in lockstep with them to defeat and push back against an out-of-control terrorist organization. Those are the sides. You have to decide which place you want to be on, and I don't like the direction that the Biden administration is going. I think it's one of the big reasons that you're seeing Donald Trump continue to climb in the polls, because every single thing this administration does is anti-American, it's anti-who we are, and you have a unique opportunity in this election to see two people who have actually been president before. They both have a record to run on. One has a very clear record of success where he stood with Israel and took pretty significant historic strides in supporting Israel, supporting our other allies, and frankly making the rest of our enemies and adversaries fear us and not take advantage in the way that we're seeing groups around the world do. Groups like Hamas, I don't think they would have made the same kind of moves if Donald Trump was in office as they have under President Biden. Our economy was stronger, our border was secure. Everything that people look at when it comes to an election of driving forces of whether or not they're going to vote for somebody, they prefer Donald Trump over Joe Biden. And I think it's really clear why.
Speaking of Donald Trump, I want to ask you about what you think of what's going on with the trial, but not the ins and outs politically of the relationship part of this. You know him. He's a friend. You guys are close, have been close. What has it been like to see him in that courtroom? He's got to be going stir crazy. I mean, this guy, he doesn't stop moving. Now you want him to sit for 8 hours a day. That's the first thing I thought. But I'm curious to get your take on just relationally when you see him in that courtroom, what you're thinking. Have you had a chance also to speak to him at all during the trial?
You know, one of the things that, to your point, he doesn't sit still well. He's somebody who needs to constantly be on the go, on the move, getting things done. And so I'm sure there is a very high level of frustration that he's sitting there unable to be on the campaign trail as much as he would like. But even so, when he has that off time, he's out there continuing to boost his numbers. But I think the biggest thing that you're seeing is how we have an out-of-control judicial system that is trying to make everything political that shouldn't be. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that voters are deciding elections, not courtrooms. And I think you're seeing a lot of frustration across the country from people who want to see exactly that.
Have you had a chance to speak to him at all during the trial?
I haven't talked to him specifically about that. And so, you know, one of the things I do know, though, about this president is there's nobody tougher, nobody that can take more hits and continue to get up and keep fighting back day after day after day. I got to see that every single day that I was in the White House for 2.5 years, and the nearly year that I worked for him on the campaign before that. And nobody else could take the level of attack and criticism that he does and continue to engage in the process. I think most people would be curled up in the corner, and yet he gets up and just keeps pushing and keeps moving forward. And I think that's one of the things that makes him so popular. People want somebody who they see as tough and strong and is going to fight for this country, and that's exactly what they see in him.
One last Trump-related question.
Sure.
The proverbial list. You're on this VP list, so to speak. Have you heard, by the way? It's on the internet. It must be true. What do you make of your name being out there? Are you ruling it out, or are you keeping your options open?
Like, I love the job I have. I've been governor for a little over a year. Look forward to having this position for the next 6.5. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure Donald Trump wins in November, defeats Joe Biden, and gets him out of the White House. And so I'm going to continue to help on the campaign as much as I can, but I love the job I have, and I'm going to keep doing it as long as they'll let me.
And speaking about the job you have, trying to crack down on kids and smartphones and social media. You're a mom, my goodness. What in the world? I mean, this is kids nowadays. It's just, it's here all the time. What are you trying to do as governor to kind of stem that a little bit, and also the dangers inherent within that?
You know, I think it's one of the scariest things that's happening across not just the country, but the world right now, is the level of addiction, especially for our young people, to smartphones and social media. I mean, you look at study after study, data point after data point will tell you that the increase of access and addiction to smartphones and social media is driving, not just driving, but skyrocketing our depression, our anxiety, our suicide rates among teens, especially young girls. I have a 12-year-old daughter. You look at the information out there, and it's absolutely terrifying. We need to make sure, and as a governor, one of the things that we're trying to do is really raise awareness. Right now, I think so many people, so many parents in particular, don't realize the dangers and the access that their kids have by putting a cell phone in their hand. They are opening up so many access points to their kids that if they knew about, they would never allow to happen. And so one of the biggest things we can do is talk about it, raise awareness, and make sure that we're looking at some common sense policy solutions, encouraging our schools to take stronger stances on being phone-free schools, encouraging our kids to get outside and play more and put their phones down. Right now, kids in America, on average, between the ages of 12 and 16, are spending 5 hours a day on social media. It's crazy. That's almost as much as they're spending getting instruction in a classroom. In many cases, it's more. And so we have to do a better job of shifting the culture, raising awareness, having this hard conversation, because I can assure you, as a parent, it's not an easy one. It's one of the biggest fights you'll have with your kids, is cutting off some of that access. But that's why it needs to be a partnership with our schools, with our parents. We need everybody coming together, talking about what those solutions look like.
That is a danger, and you've also addressed the danger of China gobbling up land in Arkansas. You're the first governor, really, to crack down on this. Talk to me a little bit about the danger here. What's the nefarious goal here by the Chinese? Why did you need to do that?
Well, I think anybody who's paying attention knows that China is not out to see America be successful and win. They are very clearly one of our biggest, if not our biggest, adversary. And we can't sit back and allow them to steal our technology, operate in our backyard where they have more access to do so, and create an even greater threat to all of the things that matter here in the United States. And so when we have an opportunity to push back and fight against those things, again, when the federal government fails to do their job, it's falling on states to step up. And that's exactly what we did in Arkansas. We worked closely with our partners in the legislature and passed a law that allowed us to remove a Chinese-owned company off of our farmland. And in fact, because they were violating that state law, not only did we kick them out of the state, but we also made them pay the fine of a couple $100,000 for operating illegally here in the state of Arkansas.
Let me ask you, on the abortion issue, you're as pro-life as they come. I mean, does it frustrate you to no end that let's be honest, the Republicans kind of blew this out of the gate with Roe v. Wade. I think they were caught flat-footed. Democrats were able to take the train with the media, helping them along the way. What does the Republican Party do on this issue? How do they appeal to the woman vote, the suburban vote, if you will, the suburban women vote on this? Because it might be politically the right thing or the smart thing to do, to kind of nuance this a little bit politically, but there's also the morally right thing to do. So how do you kind of balance the two, and which one matters most here?
For me, I'm unapologetically pro-life, proud of the fact that Arkansas is the most pro-life state in the country. As governor, I intend to keep us there. And I think we have to talk about it in ways that people understand, that makes it relevant. Quit going on defense. We so often apologize for our position when, frankly, we're on the right side here. I never want to apologize for defending one of the most vulnerable populations in our country, and that is the unborn. And so I'm not going to do that. And I think that the more that we go on offense, instead of cowering and allowing the left to define our position and make us out to be the bad guy, the better off we're going to be. I also think we have to broaden our topics that we talk to women about. We assume, and I say we, I mean other people, because I certainly don't, that women only care about one thing. But that's not true. Women are voting on the economy, they're voting on the border, they're voting on national security, they're voting on whether their schools are strong, their communities are safe. I'm a parent. I care about a lot of different issues. Don't single me down and file me down to one thing. Realize that I care about a number of things and talk to me about all of them, because those things matter too.
Has it surprised you real quick that Trump's getting some flack from some of the pro-life community to say, hey, what are you doing here? You want to now not do a federal abortion ban? But I mean, he was the most pro-life president ever. Has that surprised you at all?
I think it's a tough position that some of those organizations are in. I don't find it totally surprising. I think that they know that when they look at the two options, one is going to be infinitely better for life than Joe Biden. They've never done anything to help the pro-life community, and Donald Trump has. And so there's a very clear record of comparison there. And I think when you take a step back, what the left really wants to see happen, they know that they lose when the electoral conversation is based on the economy, when it is based on our national security, when it is based on who does a better job securing the border, they lose. So they want to try to shift the conversation and the focus to be on something they think that gives them the upper hand. I don't think we should let them. I think we have to hold their feet to the fire and really keep the conversation on the things that are going to drive voters.
As we wrap up here, has a former governor, oh, that's right, he's your dad, has he given you any advice for the job? What have those conversations been like?
He is an amazing phone-a-friend, so it's pretty great to have at my disposal anytime, day or night, somebody who has sat in this chair and done this job and done it so incredibly well. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think he's the best governor that we've ever had in Arkansas, certainly one of the best governors we've ever had in the country. I tell him all the time, though, I'm working very hard to take those titles away from him, but nobody could be more excited or more hopeful that I do than my dad. And he is happy to give advice when I ask, but it's rare that he will offer it without me asking. And so I try to tell him, Dad, if you see that I'm doing something I could do better or should do differently, call me. But he is very careful to let me pave my own path there anytime I'm needed, and has given me great advice. Most importantly, he's just been a great source of inspiration and confidence for day-to-day of how to do this job well. It gets really simple, and this is a lesson that I learned from him and from my mom, is that when you're in the chair and you're making decisions, you can take a step back and say, does this help or hurt people in my state? If it helps them, go for it. If it doesn't, then walk away. And if you put it in simple terms like that, the decision-making gets a lot easier.
My last question. You're a fighter. You're now a cancer survivor. What was that experience like for you, and how did faith play a role, your Christian faith play a role in all of that?
It's pretty terrifying, to be honest. About a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and thankfully I had amazing doctors and nurses who stepped to my aid immediately, and I was able, with surgery and a radioactive treatment, to be able to go through that process during the campaign for governor. And I can sit here today and say, by the grace of God and amazing healthcare here in the state, I am 100% cancer-free, and I feel great, and I'm very, very thankful. But it certainly gives you a new perspective on life and reminds you of what's really important. And in moments like that, your faith is one of the things you really cling to, and I think helps power you through the best days, the worst days, and the most difficult days.
Are you happy? Are you at peace? I mean, there's a lot of stress in the governor's job, but are you at inner peace?
I am. I love the job that I have, and I'll end with this. This is a story from my dad and a good lesson, but I had heard my dad for most of my life tell me, being governor is the best job you'll ever have. Being a governor is the best job, on and on, always talking about it. And I had been in office not very long, and I'd had a particularly rough couple days, and I called my dad and I said, Dad, you know how you said that this is the best job in the world? I said, when does that happen? And he kind of laughed, and in a way that only a dad can do, he said, Sarah, he said, you haven't done anything yet. He said, when you do something, then you'll know. He said, you'll be out at a grocery store or a gas station or someplace totally unexpected, and someone will come up to you and tell you that because of something you did, their life is better. Because of something that you did or worked on, their kid's life is better, and it's changed, and they're in a better place because of you. He said, when that happens, you'll know. Not too much longer after that, we were able to pass a pretty transformational education package called Arkansas Learns. And one of the big pieces of that were education freedom accounts. And I have had now, on a regular occurrence, parents come up and say, because of that piece of legislation, my child is now getting the education they need. It's changed their life. They were once struggling, and now they're thriving, and that's the day that it becomes the best job that you'll ever have. And I'm getting to experience that now, and I absolutely love what I get to do.
Dad was right. All right.
Usually is.
Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, thanks so much.
You bet.